Your brain is running a broadcast signal 24 hours a day. And according to one of the most controversial personal development books ever written, most people have accidentally tuned that signal to a frequency that repels the exact things they want. Charles Haanel published the Master Key System in 1912, and it was so influential it got banned in some circles for decades. The reason comes down to a single mechanism that, once you see it, explains a pattern you've probably been living inside your entire adult life. Haanel's central claim is deceptively simple. Your habitual mental state functions like a transmitter. Whatever you consistently hold in thought, and more critically in feeling, determines what you attract and what you push away. Now, before you dismiss this as magical thinking, consider how he frames it. He spends 24 weekly lessons building a case that this operates through specific mental mechanics, the same way a radio tower broadcasts on a fixed frequency. You can't receive jazz on a station tuned to static. And most people, Haanel argues, are broadcasting static without knowing it. The mechanism works like this. Every time you worry about money, you're holding a vivid mental picture of not having enough. Every time you stress about being alone, you're rehearsing isolation in high definition. Your mind treats these rehearsals as instructions. Haanel calls this the law of attraction, a phrase he used over a century before it became a bumper sticker. But his version is colder and more mechanical than the pop culture one. He describes it as cause and effect operating through thought, the same way electricity follows a circuit. No mysticism required. Just physics applied to broadcasting lack. Haanel identifies something he calls the world within and the world without. The world without is everything you can see, touch, measure, bills on the counter, the number in your bank account, the job you tolerate. The world within is your mental landscape, the thoughts you return to when no one's watching, the movie playing behind your eyes at 2 in the morning. His argument is that most people let the world without dictate the world within. They observe lack, feel lack, think about lack, and then wonder why lack keeps showing up. That feedback loop is where it gets mechanical. You wake up, check your account balance, feel a knot form in your stomach, spend the morning turning that knot into a running monologue about what you can't afford, and by noon, your entire mental atmosphere is saturated with scarcity. You carry that into conversations, into decisions, into the energy you bring to opportunities that cross your path. Haanel would say you just spent 6 hours broadcasting a signal that says, "I don't have enough," and the world organized itself accordingly. The counter-argument writes itself. Positive thinking can't pay rent, visualizing wealth while sitting in debt feels delusional. And honestly, that criticism has teeth. Haanel himself addresses it though, in a way most people skip over. He distinguishes sharply between idle daydreaming and what he calls constructive thinking. Daydreaming is passive, you picture a mansion and feel good for 10 minutes. Constructive thinking, in his framework, is deliberate, sustained concentration on a specific outcome paired with the emotional state of already possessing it. The distinction matters because one is entertainment and the other rewires how you process information. You start noticing opportunities that were always there, doors you walked past every day because your attention was pointed at the floor. Haanel describes an exercise in week 5 that makes this concrete. He instructs the reader to sit in a quiet room, select a single mental image, and hold it with absolute clarity for 15 to 20 minutes. No wandering, no mental chatter, just the image, held steady until it feels as real as the chair beneath you. Most people can't do this for 30 seconds. Try it. Pick any object, a glass of water, a red door, anything, and hold that image without your mind darting to your grocery list or an argument from last Tuesday. The inability to hold a single thought is what Haanel considers the root problem. A transmitter that can't hold a frequency broadcasts noise. And this is where the system gets uncomfortable, because it implies that the mental chaos most people experience every day, the constant chatter, the jumping between worries, the inability to focus on one thing for more than a few moments, is actively shaping their external results. Every scattered thought is a vote for more scattering. Every anxious loop is a rehearsal for the next anxious loop. The signal you're sending out is a perfect mirror of the disorder inside, and Haanel would say the results in your life are the proof. Week 15 introduces what might be the most unsettling lesson. Haanel writes that the only way to change the outer world is to change the inner world first, completely. He means that you have to hold the new mental state before any evidence supports it. You have to feel abundant before abundance arrives. You have to carry the posture of someone whose problem is already solved, while the problem is still sitting on your desk, staring at you. This is where most people quit. The gap between "I'm choosing to feel differently" and "my circumstances reflect that choice" can stretch for weeks or months. Haanel is explicit about this. He calls it a test of persistence that most people fail usually right before the shift would have become visible. There's a specific passage in week 7 where he compares the mind to a garden. The metaphor sounds gentle until you follow his logic. He says most people plant seeds of fear, doubt, and worry all day long, then act shocked when their garden grows weeds. The gardener who plants tomatoes and then panics every morning that tomatoes aren't appearing yet, pulling up the seeds to check on them, replanting in different soil every week, will never harvest anything. The patience to plant a thought, water it with consistent attention, and leave it alone long enough to take root is the skill that separates people who use the system from people who read about it and move on. Haanel's framework has a structural problem he's honest about. In week 17, he acknowledges that most people's default mental programming was installed in childhood, long before they had any say in the matter. The beliefs you absorbed about money, success, relationships, and your own capabilities were written into your mental architecture by age 7 or 8. You've been broadcasting on a frequency you didn't choose. Every financial fear, every assumption about what's possible for someone like you, every quiet conviction that good things happen to other people, those are inherited signals, running on autopilot. And they've been shaping your results for decades while you blame circumstances, timing, or luck. The question that haunts the entire 24-week program is simple. If your habitual mental state really does function as a broadcast signal, what have you been broadcasting for the last 10 years? Sit with that. Think about the thoughts you return to most often. The feeling tone of your average Tuesday afternoon. The inner monologue that plays when you're stuck in traffic or lying in bed before sleep. Haanel would say that monologue is your signal, and your life is the reception. Week 22 presents his most direct challenge. He asks readers to spend an entire week monitoring their thoughts without trying to change them. Just observe. Notice how many of your thoughts in a given hour are about what you lack, what you fear, what might go wrong. Most people who actually do this exercise report something startling. The ratio of lack-based thoughts to abundance-based thoughts runs somewhere around 8 or 9 to 1. You spend the overwhelming majority of your waking hours mentally rehearsing outcomes you don't want. And you've been doing it so long it feels like realism. It feels like being practical, responsible, careful. Haanel reframes all of that. What you call being realistic is a broadcast pattern. What you call caution is a signal, and the world has been responding to that signal faithfully the entire time. The final lesson, week 24, circles back to where it all started. Haanel writes that the master key, the thing the entire system is named for, is concentration, the ability to hold one thought, one feeling, one frequency with enough consistency that it becomes your default broadcast. He compares a scattered mind to a light bulb, diffusing energy in every direction. A concentrated mind is a laser, same energy, same source. One lights a rune, the other cuts through steel. You've been broadcasting something every single day of your life, a signal made of the thoughts you think most often and the feelings those thoughts generate. Haanel's system, stripped of its 1912 vocabulary and its occasionally grandiose framing, makes one testable claim. Change the signal and the reception. Changes the 24 weeks are just a manual for learning how to hold the dial steady. And the reason most people never do it has nothing to do with willpower or discipline. They never realize the dial was in their hand.